I am Anna Seawold, and this is Authentic Parenting, a podcast about personal development in the context of parenting, where I explore how you can find more calm, connection, and joy in parenting through the process of self-discovery and inner growth with a trauma-informed lens. I am a parent educator, and my mission is to help children by helping parents. The motto of this podcast is raising our children, growing ourselves. Today, we are continuing the 3 R's of pandemic parenting. I have a compilation episode. I reached out to some of my favorite online people and asked them to contribute their thoughts and best tips for staying regulated, creating routines, and maintaining relationships. These are people I admire and am friends with. I love who they are, what they stand for, and what their messages are. And they all have one thing in common. They have been former guests on the podcast, 2 of them more than once. I don't want to give out their names as I want you to be surprised. I'll provide links to their individual episodes in the show notes. I apologize if I sound differently. I am sick and I was so worried for 3 days. I thought I had coronavirus. I got tested and I am happy to announce that I am negative. In last week's solo episode 247, I talked about what I call the 3 R's of pandemic parenting: regulation, routines, and relationships. I think these 3 concepts are very important now, and we need to prioritize them. In that episode, I shared my thoughts on the current state of our lives: loss, stress, heightened anxiety, increased fear, emotions, uncertainty. I stated that during this kind of time, our old survival strategies activate, and how I think this might be considered an adverse childhood experience. I mentioned how we are all struggling and how it's profoundly impacting our lives, this situation, and our children. I shared my own struggles during the pandemic. I spoke about my own experience and talked about the weekly support calls for the Authentic Parenting community that I have been offering since March. And you got to hear the voices of some of the core participants and how they benefited from those calls. FYI, I am continuing the weekly support calls, and if you are needing support, don't be alone, reach out. I also drew parallels between my experience with the severe earthquake and the pandemic. And I said that with the pandemic, the destruction is more invisible. And of course, I shared some practical tips on creating routines, staying regulated, and maintaining contact with other humans for overall well-being, as difficult as it might be. I emphasized that now more than ever, we need to prioritize our children's mental health and emotional well-being and not focus on grades, performance, achievement, quote-unquote good behavior, chores. If you haven't listened to that episode, I highly encourage you to do so. For full episode show notes, additional free resources on parenting, contact info, and ways to work with me, visit authenticparenting.com. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And now, please enjoy this compilation episode with some of my dear friends and colleagues.
Hi, I'm Hunter Clarke-Fields, host of the Mindful Mama podcast and author of Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. And when I think of the pandemic and these 3 R's of regulation, routines, and relationship, this regulation piece is really big because our job as parents is to regulate our own emotions, because then kids, they use us to co-regulate, meaning our emotions and our mental and emotional states are contagious, especially for little kids. It's really an important job for us to regulate our emotions. And right now during this pandemic, our nervous system is on alert for threats. And that's normal and natural because, there are threats out there. It makes a lot of sense. But that means that our nervous system is already halfway there as far as it goes into its fight, flight, or freeze system. What happens with our nervous system is that fight, flight, or freeze system, it actually ends up reducing our access to the upper parts of our brain. The nervous system, that stress response is controlled by the lower part of the brain. The first evolved parts of the brain, when it's activated, cuts off access to the prefrontal cortex, which is behind your forehead, that part of the brain. And that part of the brain is where our higher order thinking is, our empathy, our logic, all of our good communication skills as parents, our ability to relate to them. It's really important that we keep these parts of the brain together. And this is what mindfulness does really well. There's 2 things I want you to take from this here as far as regulation. One is that it's your job and your self-care is your responsibility right now. It's really important. And it's really important for you to take daily steps to calm your nervous system. And that can be very simple as practicing some breathing techniques, like breathing in, maybe for a count of 5, breathing out for a count of 8, let's just try that one more time to experience it. In for 5, out for 8. And you might be able to feel with just 1 or 2 breaths there how that helps to calm or take ourselves out of that mild stress response and into that opposite rest and relax response. But another thing you can do is have your own mindfulness practice. Even a short practice every day makes a big difference. There have been studies that show that it really does help us to be less reactive, help us to have less anxiety, less depression, more well-being. And those are the things we need. We need to feel good. We need to cultivate that sense of calm and feeling good in this time. Don't martyr yourself and feel like your anxiety and your fear, you're doing something great with that. No. To be able to help our kids, to be able to help others, we need to be able to have some equanimity and some calm during this time. So I invite you to do things that calm your nervous system, that feel good. You know, Brene Brown, the researcher and author, she really points to this in her research, showing that we cannot give what we do not have, right? So she says, love is not something we give or get. It's something that we nurture and grow, a connection that can only be cultivated between 2 people when it exists within each one of them. We can only love others as much as we love ourselves. So this time is a time for you to take care of yourself, love yourself, practice what you want to give within, give yourself those moments of calm, give yourself those moments of calming your nervous system so that you can regulate, right? And then our kids can co-regulate from there. You can be that mountain, that solid mountain, and they can get that solidity from you really beautifully. And mindfulness is a great, powerful piece of that. And then build those into your routines. And when I think of routines, I actually like to think of the word rhythm instead, rather than a routine, kind of just so we can hold a little bit more lightly so that we don't get our nervous system all fired up because we're not on a routine and we're getting all tight and trying to control it really hard. When we're really trying to hold on tight and control, that's a signal for you that maybe to stop, pause, take a deep breath in for 5, out for 8. And hold it a little more lightly. Think of it as a rhythm, but build in those routines to calm your nervous system into your routine. Start your day with the intention to calm your nervous system. Start your day with the intention to feel good, to offer yourself that love so that you can offer it for others. And then when it comes to your relationship, then when you are building that in within, then it just spills out of you so beautifully and naturally. Our kids cooperate with us because of our connection. So aim for 12 hugs a day. Practice to be present with your kids. How can we love if we are not there? If our minds are a million miles in the future or thinking about the news and worried about what will be, instead stop, come into this present moment, look around you. What can you appreciate in this space right here, right now? What can you be grateful for? What can you see that in your child? How can you look at your child with fresh eyes and see that person as they are now, right now, without any of the baggage or your baggage? And this is truly a practice of mindfulness, of being aware and stopping and becoming more of a beginner. So I invite you to have practices that help you feel good, that help you calm down. Don't stay in the news, so much that your nervous system gets really activated. Have those rhythms that you can hold lightly, that keep your day flowing, and then have that relationship with yourself, with the present moment, and then you can really, really be present for your child. Thank you so much. I'm Hunter Clarke-Fields. I really appreciate your ears and your listening, and I wish you peace. I wish you well. Namaste.
Hey, authentic parents. This is Dr. Laura Froyen of the Balanced Parent Podcast, and I'm so excited to be a part of this cool episode that Anna's doing. So here are my best tips for staying regulated, staying connected in your relationships, and holding good rhythms and routines for your kiddos. So I think rhythms and routines are really important. They actually help us stay regulated because when we know what's coming up, what to expect, what the flow of our day is, when we can kind of have good habits built in, it lets us use those mental resources and energy for staying regulated. So if you want to build a good rhythm and routines for you and for your family, I'd love to invite you to download my Rhythms, Routines, and Rituals workbook. It helps you develop good rhythms and routines and infuse them with rituals that promote connection and deeper relationships. So you can get that at www.laurafroyen.com/rhythm. You can download that workbook and put it to work for you. This is the exact workbook I use with my family seasonally to make sure things are flowing and that we're staying connected. Taking good care of ourselves is another good thing you can be doing during this time to help you stay regulated. And I know as parents, we hear that all the time. What I mean by taking good care of yourself is eating, sleeping, drinking water, setting good boundaries, saying no to things that are draining to you, only engaging in the things that are life-giving and bring you joy, and developing a regular self-compassion practice. When we infuse our daily lives and our interactions with compassion, when we think about ourselves kindly and offer ourselves grace, when we are kind to ourselves, when we make mistakes, we make it easier to be vulnerable, easier to be real, easier to be authentic. And that allows us to show up as our best selves in our relationships. And when we make mistakes, it allows us to admit those mistakes and do better next time. So self-compassion is one of the most important things you can do to help you stay well regulated so that you can respond to your kids and to your partners and to the other people in your lives lives rather than reacting to the situations out of habit or old triggers and wounds and old scripts. So self-compassion is the way. If you're looking for a self-compassion meditation to do, I have one for you. If you go to www.laurafroyen.com/compassion, you'll find an audio file that you can download for free, and it's called Self-Compassion for Imperfect Families. And it is a short 5-minute meditation that I designed to be able to do with your kids that honors the mistakes that we make as families, as parents, as humans, and encourages us to extend grace and kindness to ourselves and to the people that we love. It's a very short practice. You can do it a couple times a day, or whenever you find that you are having conflict or kind of tricky moments. It can be something that can be resetting for yourself, but also for your whole family. And then the last piece, relationships. When we are stressed, when we are having a hard time, when the outside world feels hard, like it is right now, as humans, it is our natural way of being to turn towards each other and to want to feel connected. We co-regulate with the people that we love and that we're around. Our nervous systems and our hormone systems do better when we are feeling connected and loved. So I would also love to invite you to download a relationship building game that I have. It's designed to be used with couples, but you can totally use it with your kids. It's called Random Acts of Connection. So you can download that at this website, laurafroyen.com/random-acts-of-connection. And hopefully Anna can put the link in the show notes to that. It's a game that's based on love languages, and it's one that I use with my couple clients. But again, you can use it with your kids. And basically, it gives you lots of ideas for how to kind of sneakily do nice things, help your partner or the other people in your life feel loved in a way that feels loving, connecting to them. And when we do this, when we have a good ratio of 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction, both with our partners and with our kids, research shows that we have more collaborative and satisfying and connected relationships. So intentionally infusing your relationships, your family with positive connection can be one of the most beautiful ways to build resilient kids and families that can kind of weather a storm together, that can turn into each other and kind of can have a sense of it's our family against the world and we can do anything when we're together. That connection is key. And so I would love to invite you to download that game and really intentionally bring that to your family. You can even sometimes do it as a little bit of a secret experiment and just see how it works and how it goes and what a difference it makes. And I would love for you to let me know how it goes. If you do download it and try it out, I would love to see your little random acts of connection that you put into practice with your partners or with your kids. Send me a DM on Instagram at Laura Froyen, PhD, or post a story and highlight or tag me in the story so that we can kind of create a community around really intentionally connecting and fostering positive relationships with our kids, which are so protective for us and for them. All right, take good care of yourselves. I always love spending time with you guys. And please always reach out and let me know if you have any needs or questions or need support. You are not alone in this, and we've got this.
Hey there, this is Jen from the Vibrant Happy Women podcast. And I want to talk about my take on the 3 R's of pandemic parenting. First, I want to talk about regulation. Most of you listening would probably agree that your emotions have been stretched to a new capacity throughout the pandemic and everything else that's happening. I remember when the pandemic started, I felt a lot of fear, tons and tons of fear, more fear than I've probably ever felt in my life. And so I had to learn to regulate that emotion. And one of the tools that I use and talk about a lot on my podcast, Vibrant Happy Women, is the feel it to heal it method. Essentially, it is getting into a safe space. Mine happens to be my bed. I pull my feather comforter up and I tuck myself in. Even in the middle of the day, I'll do this when I feel an emotion or a state of mind that is uncomfortable. And I begin with breathing, just checking in with my breath and then my body, and I figure out, what am I feeling? And if I don't know the name of it, then I'll switch to the next question, which is, where am I feeling uncomfortable? Often I'll feel sadness in my heart, or anger in my throat, or tension in my stomach, whatever it is. You're going to feel these emotions differently because we're all wired uniquely. So you figure out what you're feeling, where you're feeling it in your body, name the feeling, and then you just feel it. I always say the worst that can happen is an emotion. The worst that can happen is a feeling or an emotion if you think about it. Everything else is just a fact. It's our thoughts about those facts that can be overwhelming. COVID is a fact. The election is a fact. How do we think and feel about it? Well, we can change those things. So Feel It to Heal It is amazing. I do it with my kids and I teach them the same thing. Take a deep breath. What are you feeling in your body? Oh, interesting. If that feeling had a color, what would it be? If that feeling had a sound, what would it be? What about a texture? What would you name that feeling? And so on. And the process of focusing in on the feeling actually helps it to move through and to dissolve. Now, most of us, kids included, will often try to numb against our feelings. Things like Netflix, eating, scrolling through Instagram. These distract us from the emotion, and these emotions then can get stuck, which is not my version of optimal pandemic parenting. We want to all feel the best we can feel. So it takes some time every day to feel it, to heal it. What's going on there? What would you name it? What does it feel like? Keep feeling with that emotion until it begins to dissolve and pass. It's beautiful. Now, in terms of routines, I do my Be Her morning routine every day. Be Her is an acronym that stands for breathe, exercise, hydrate, embody, and read. Now, if you want more details about that, you can follow me on my podcast. But essentially, what is your morning routine? What helps you to feel juicy rather than brittle? Right now in the Northern Hemisphere, it's autumn and the fall leaves are hitting the ground and they're brittle and crunchy. And I know as women, we don't want to be brittle and delicate. We want to be vibrant and juicy and capable and strong. And so these morning routines essentially fill our cups or juice us up so that we can be emotionally more resilient and present with our kids, with our emotions, with their emotions all day long. Finally, relationships. This one's tricky. Managing the virtual schooling, managing a podcast, managing a home. By the way, I have 6 kids, 5 of whom live with me, and a husband who sometimes can seem like a 7th kid, but we won't go there. I think you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I love him. He does many great things. Just leave it right there. With relationships during a pandemic, I think it's particularly helpful to make it a no-brainer by scheduling appointments or scheduling blocks of time. So we have a block of time where our family eats dinner and we all sit down and we all come. The routine is really comforting. We know what's happening. We eat some healthy food, usually, and it's repeatable. Bedtime stories, same thing. I've been adding a bit of time more and more consistently called Mom's Meditation Time, where we come in together and meditate. Now it says Mom's Meditation Time because my husband isn't exactly open to that. And so that's cool. But the point is, schedule chunks of time that are for the connection and the togetherness. Another hot tip, schedule your physical intimacy with your partner. That has been a huge blessing for our relationship. It's a great way to have oxytocin, that connection through physical intimacy, and it just smooths over any rough edges, so keeps us all functioning optimally. So those are my 3 R's for pandemic parenting. I hope those are helpful. And thank you, Anna, for giving me this chance to join you. Have a great day, everyone.
We're Hannah and Kelty of the Upbringing podcast, and we wanted to contribute our thoughts on the 3 R's of pandemic parenting. Let's dive in. Number 1, regulation. Our suggestion, we take a personal timeout. So when emotions are running high at home, when our kids are hurting their sibling, throwing themselves on the floor for another cookie, screaming no about a shower or anything, it's so easy for us to insist our kids calm the heck down. And we naturally go to demands like ushering them to their room or even screaming like, go to your calm down corner. Right. I mean, how can we be of service to them to calm our kids' nervous systems, which is the first step in emotion processing if we're not calm ourselves, right? It doesn't matter how many good intentions I have at helping out. If I'm dysregulated, everything I say comes out in a scream. We end up being rougher with our kids' bodies than we planned, right? And basically we ramp up everything and everyone in the name of helping. Not ideal, right? Totally. So we try to get our priorities straight. So unless it's a safety emergency, we need to self-regulate before we co-regulate. And we like to take what we call a personal timeout. So when our heads are feeling hot, our fists are starting to clench, and we're getting that feeling like we want to put our kids in a timeout, we step out ourselves. Right. And it doesn't mean that we abandon our kids when they're needing us. It doesn't mean we storm out of the room and slam the door. It just means we take a brief, necessary moment of time to set the scene for some calm connection instead of more wild dysregulation. So we would say things like, oh my gosh, I need a quick breath. I'll be right back. Or I'm struggling a bit in supporting you both, so I'll be in the bathroom for a quick moment. Or if our kids do not like our words in the moment, then maybe we just hold a finger up, give a nod, walk out for a moment. Yeah. And then we do whatever strategy works best for us to relax. All those things that, we're constantly trying to get our kids to use: deep breathing, grounding techniques, jumping jacks, pillow squeezing, or screaming, whatever we need to regulate our own nervous system so that we can show up and grow up for our kid. Right. And I think that regulating ourselves doesn't just help us show up better for our kids, but it also models all the self-regulation strategies we want them to adopt over time. So it's not permissive or destabilizing to vulnerably and without shaming show our kids that we're struggling a little bit and need a moment before we lose it. It's a responsible kind of way to go about it, and ultimately kind of a win-win for both of us. Yeah, and we can't always catch ourselves in time, and that's okay. I think that even if we can start noticing after the fact when that timeout for us would have been helpful, we'll start working our way backwards and start earlier next time, because in parenting, there's always a next time. Absolutely. Okay. Number 2, routine. So our suggestion would be we hold routines loosely. I mean, in pandemic parenting, and especially right now with online school starting for so many of us, I feel like we're all really needing that structure, that control, the schedules, the predictability, right? Yeah, that's totally understandable and helpful for both us and our kids, but only up to a point. Like, I love those routines, those color charts. They give me the semblance of control and sometimes a false sense of it's going to be okay. There's pink on the calendar. We've got this structure going. But what happens when the kids kind of get woven into that is sometimes they can resist it, right? Sometimes that routine doesn't suit everybody. Sometimes we end up bending the humans to the routine instead of the routine to the humans. Yeah, no, totally. For example, we might think a 20-minute lunch is great for our kid and enough time, but based on what their body needs to do after having sat for 3 hours, maybe they need 40 minutes, or maybe we think a warm bath is what would be great for them every evening, but what do they have to say about that? I mean, I think we have to keep remembering that these routines have to involve and reflect our kid, their temperaments, their abilities, their needs, their stress, all of that stuff. Yeah, right? I like seeing that routine as a loose thing, as an ever-evolving conversation with our kids, not something that we set for them or do to them, but that we can co-create. Even the youngest kids can have agency in their routines, and their resistance is what shows us exactly where our work lies. That's our ding-ding. Right? Oh yeah, love that. So how do we go about making changes then? Should things not be going as expected? The color charts, it's off. They don't like the blue, the green's not working. We can just hold a family meeting with our kids, or even just have a relaxed conversation with our partners or with them in the car at bedtime, and ask them how it's going. How you feeling? I've noticed this thing. How have you been feeling about this? And then with their support and their collaboration, decide on a new plan. And it doesn't always sound perfect to us or to them. We find some way to kind of work together with it, but we want our kids to have some buy-in and agency to move forward. Yeah. Bottom line, nothing needs to be set in stone, and it's okay to experiment. We want to give you that permission. I think a routine is created by us moving through it with our kids. with awareness, curiosity, innovation, and connection. And it takes some work and investment, but early flexibility and continued customization is what's going to help everyone over time. We believe in you. I love that. So third, number 3 is relationships. And our suggestion is we circle back. We are all under so much stress, responsibility, overwhelm right now, pulled in so many directions. And I can feel like we have a lot of pressure to successfully move through challenges with our kids, like immediately, completely, emotion process, resolve the issue, do all the things and be all the things at once.
Yeah.
But that's not always possible. We've
Right.
got work calls, we've got housework, so many other demands. And it's such a relief realizing with this circle back, we can always do that later. So when something gets broken, when a sibling gets hurt, when homework is being ignored, when someone's melting down and we can't resolve it all in the moment, we have this opportunity later when our kids are calm and receptive to process and connect about what happened, where we can ask questions, perspective take, apologize, build context, empathize, innovate, not in a grill back way, in a circle back way, but carve out that time for us and our kids. Yes. I mean, I think the circle back normalizes conflict. That's why it's so different than the grill back that we all grew up with. And, using some non-judgmental and curious kind of approaches with our kids, we can make a safe and positive association around learning and growing from a challenge. There are no mistakes. And I think that can really feel counterintuitive in the parenting realm, but it's truly our connection and not our correction that's the key to keeping us close to our kids and to actually help them build those critical skills in self-awareness, empathy, communication, and conflict resolution. Yeah, the circle back just takes so much pressure off us in the moment to fix, teach, control the situation for the better. And I think if we can just keep thinking, our only job right now is to keep everyone safe in the moment. And then the part 2 circle back can happen later when we're all doing a little better, when we're all feeling more receptive to repair, learn, and connect. So to wrap this up, we are not supposed to know any of this, and that's okay. One gift the pandemic gives us is the incredible amount of opportunities we have to do the work, on ourselves, to learn about our kids, to build our own skills as we raise them. We like to say we're all growing up together, one conversation at a time, and we hope these ideas can be as helpful to you as they've been to us.
Hi there, I'm Tejal Patel. I'm a former divorce attorney turned mindfulness advocate for families and meditation expert for kids. I'm the host of the Time and Talks podcast and the author of the Mom's Choice Gold Award-winning book, Meditation for Kids, 40 Activities to Manage Emotions, Ease Anxiety, and Stay Focused. All of us parents are deeply desiring to raise kids who are happy, healthy, and confident. And the pandemic has really highlighted that many of us, including our children, are experiencing stress at excruciating levels. Life is showing us that it's largely unpredictable and things are not going to go your way. And when these unexpected challenges and unpleasant feelings arise, these are a natural and normal part of life. And learning the resilience to ride through these situations is one of the most essential and beneficial tools that we can give ourselves and our kids. So yes, big emotions are running high during the pandemic. There's fear of the coronavirus, there's anxiety, sadness of the life that we once had and not being able to see our friends, and frustration with distant learning and just even being with us. So these unprocessed big emotions, if left unchecked, will result in stress. This is the perfect time to create a new daily routine. Just like we teach them that physical health is important, taking care of your mental health is equally as important. We teach our kids that you brush your teeth, take a shower, to wash your hands and put hand sanitizer on, that you need good rest in order to keep your mind and body healthy. Well, now in our routine, it's time to teach our kids that we brush our brain every day by meditating and taking deep breaths to keep yucky thoughts and feelings away. Just a few moments a day, sitting in meditation with the Meditation for Kids book will show you how to infuse and plant these seeds of calm, quiet, inner connection. And there is no better time than right now to start infusing meditation and mindful resets into your kids' daily routine. The next is the age-old struggle of how to mindfully handle meltdowns. Regulating your children's big feelings as well as ours is a big conundrum for us. Many of you may even say, I try to take deep breaths with my kids and I've even maybe introduced them to meditation, but the meltdowns still happen and they may even get triggered even more when I ask them to take deep breaths. So I want you to think of it like this. Would you tell your kids that moving on, you only have to brush your teeth when you have chocolate and sweets? Any day you don't have chocolate, you don't have to brush your teeth. said no parent ever. That's because brushing is a daily self-care act that we have to do. Meditation is brushing your brain so we can get rid of the yucky thoughts and yucky feelings. Meditation is taking those few moments to stop doing anything else and settling down, tuning into our body, learning how to actively breathe so that we can calm our breath, calm our body, and eventually our mind. Then those cavities are our meltdowns. You would never go to a dentist who would say, you know what, you can just brush your teeth and the cavities will go away. It's too late for that. You have to have a skilled dentist, know skilled tools to take your pain away and give you relief. So in the moment of meltdowns, it's your responsibility to be the dentist. And your tools are three things: a connection moment, a mindful moment, and a teachable moment. The place that we get tricked up is the connection moment. When your child is in a complete red brain state, they're completely dysregulated. What they need is not your talking. They need space, they need silence, and they need to feel safe. So what does this mean? If your child likes to be touched, you are not asking them to breathe. You are asking, may I help you feel better? You are hugging them and you are taking the deep breaths. I like to call this the heart-to-heart hug, and it's inside the Meditation for Kids book. You are regulating your breath and you're rubbing your hands on their back so that your touch and your vibration and energy are slowly going to help them regulate their nervous system. Some kids just need space. They don't want touch. They just need the energy of the big emotions to ride through. So that's exactly what you do. You give them the space and you say, when you're ready for my help, I'm happy to help. Until then, I'm going to wait in the other room. And many times we need that space for ourselves. It is okay to be silent. It's better to be silent if you're feeling triggered as well. Then it comes to the mindful moment. The mindful moment is a yellow brain moment. Your child's not completely back to normal. They might still be crying a little bit. They're whining, maybe clingy. However, they're starting to talk and they're starting to be able to hear you. When they're in a yellow brain moment, this is when we can infuse a mindful breathing reset to help them feel better and reset their nervous system. But the secret is you got to know the right tool based on the type of stress that they experience. You see, emotions are energy in motion, and some emotions are more intense and others are not. And there are different breathing resets, meditation, and yoga postures and mindful movements that will help move energy the right way based on what emotion they're feeling. So for example, there's first mental stress. Mental stress means there's too much energy in the mind and it caused anxiety, nervousness, worrying, overthinking. And the secret to this is slowing down. From the Meditation for Kids book, I love teaching Windy Windmill. This is an ancient yogic breathing technique that can be used by grown-ups and kids. The whole secret is that you're breathing in through your nose and exhaling slowly out of your mouth, with the exhale being longer than the inhale. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system to turn on the rest and relaxed state. As you breathe out, you want to breathe out not like if you're blowing out a candle, but as if you are just blowing the flame of a candle and just letting it move. So it's a soul sleeping out. Do this 3 to 5 times to slow down the body, the breath, and eventually the mind. The second type of stress is emotional stress, and this is all created from anger, frustration. This creates shallow breathing. And the secret here is cooling down, getting your child cold water before you say or do anything, even putting your hands in the bathroom under cold running water and letting water run on the wrist point. You've seen those images and cartoons of steam coming out of your ears and fire coming out of your head. When we're angry, upset, frustrated, the energy in our body is heat, and we need to cool ourselves down first before we can get into a logic state of mind, think of a solution for a problem. The third type of stress is physical stress, which is sadness. And this is all about moving that stagnant energy, moving it up when you don't feel like doing anything. Jumping jacks is a great way to get some energy moving up. Bringing your hands above your head in a good dance party will really help move that sad energy out. And then comes the teachable moment. Only when your child is back in a green brain state, when they're in a playful, learning, happy, receptive state, that's when you can talk about the problem and find solutions to how to move forward next time. And the last thing is cultivating a bonding relationship with your kids. And every 24-hour period of time, you should have at least one interaction where you relate from your inner child to your child and not as a parent. When you're constantly in parenting mode, when you're guiding and fixing and instructing and directing, this is a recipe for disconnection over a prolonged period of time. How do you tap into your inner child? Remember how you felt when you were the age that your child currently is. Look at the pictures of your childhood when you were that exact age. What did you wear? Get back into that zone. What did you like? And relate to your child from that space at least once a day for at least 10 minutes. This is your quality soul-to-soul time with your child, where you talk, play, listen, and you're just engaging with your child in a very playful, mindful, present way. I'm telling you, this will create the most lasting memories, and it will get you out of your strict, constantly thinking adult frame of mind. I want to leave you with this. Just because we mess up, and we all mess up as parents, I want you to know that you are not messing up your kids. When you show up day in, day out, vulnerable, apologizing, trying your best, your kids recognize this. Sometimes we will get it right, and sometimes we won't. But I want to leave you with one last piece of heartfelt advice. It's more important to raise kids who know how to handle unhappiness than kids who are always happy. Stay blessed, my friends.
And that is it, my dear listener. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I want to hear from you. How are you coping with this situation? What are you struggling with? How is the virtual remote learning going for your children? Have you lost your job? How are you managing life, household, kids, and your own well-being and regulation? You can send me a note to the email info@authenticparenting.com. You can leave a voicemail, and I do prefer audio, to the number 732-763-2576. And for international listeners, you can use the free SpeakPipe tool on the contact page of my website, authenticparenting.com/contact. Another place to connect with me is Instagram. I'm pretty active on there. Not lately, although, because as I mentioned in episode 247, I have been struggling with the pandemic and the emotions and being stuck and all of that. But you can still follow me to see behind the scenes and some VIP content that I never share anywhere else. If you find the podcast helpful and enjoy the content, I'd appreciate if you could take a quick second to rate and review it on Apple Podcasts. Also, I want to remind you that we have a Patreon page where you can show your support for the show and the work of authentic parenting. You can go to patreon.com, patron.com, and in the search bar type Authentic Parenting or Anna Seewald, and you will see my page. You can contribute a small amount to support the show. There are different levels of support, and you get some cool rewards with each level. You can also make a one-time donation. The link is in your show notes. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your continued listenership and support. It means a lot. Until next week, connect to the present moment, to yourself and your children. I am Anna Seewald. Thank you so much for listening.